Hello. Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship. The decades of conflict and violence between Israelis and Palestinians has been the source of unimaginable horrors, of pain, suffering for generations with little hope for peace. And what we saw in the attacks in Al-Aqsa Mosque and in the cycle of violence between the Israeli military and Hamas is the reality of civilians suffering in this latest escalation of violence. And while the ceasefire is welcome, let us make sure our government takes the necessary steps to ensure that is maintained. And let us just take stock and remember how many people have sadly lost their lives. A total of 256 Palestinians, including 66 children and 6 people with disabilities, were killed during the 11-day military assault on Gaza, and nearly 2,000 injured between the 10th of May and the ceasefire announcement on the 21st. And since the 7th of May, 35 Palestinians have been killed in the West Bank and the occupied East Jerusalem, alongside, according to the Palestinian Red Crescent Society, and some 7,056 injured. And in Israel, 13 people were killed by rockets fired by Palestinian armed factions. Mr. Chairman, we need to ensure that the international community, led by the US and with our government and others, work together now to ensure that there is a negotiated settlement to secure peace in that region. Otherwise, the cycle of conflict and violence will continue. That is why it's so important that our government listens to many in Parliament, but also across our country, who have in the past campaigned for the recognition of Palestinian statehood. Some of us were in Parliament at the time where campaigning for statehood when that came up previously. And we need our government to work with our partners internationally to ensure that the Israeli government is held to account for the atrocities it has committed, as well as, of course, Hamas. We need to make sure civilians are not caught in the crossfire and that they are protected against this conflict. Ultimately, the only way we're going to prevent this cycle of violence is through a negotiated settlement. And that's why it's vital that our government plays its part. And frankly, its actions have been found wanting.
Thank you.